One of the questions we get asked the very most is, do you have a therapist you can recommend for me? And while we wish that we knew of therapists in every single place, in every single part of the country, we don't. So what do we tell them instead, Mel?
We say check out BetterHelp because it's online, it's at a reasonable price, and you can be matched with a therapist within 24 hours. I've also used them and they have been great. And if you don't like your therapist, guess what? Click, click, and get a new one.
Absolutely. It's so hard when you have an in-person therapist, if you're not clicking with them, to cut them off and get a new one. So that's not an issue with BetterHelp. So we always tell people to try BetterHelp. And if you use our promo code, which is
trybetterhelp.com/WWDN,
you get 10% off your first month.
Go ahead and try it out. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN. And you know what? I'm a big fan of doing therapy where you don't have to wear pants, but nobody knows about it.
Are you wearing pants right now, Mel?
I'll see you later. Bye. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
Welcome to the podcast today. We have an exciting guest. I'm excited to learn a little bit more about her and her story.
Same here. And can you please tell us your name and where you are coming from?
My name is Jen Newberg, and I live in a town called Natick, Massachusetts. It is about 20 minutes west of Boston, so just outside the awesome city of Boston.
Can we talk about Salem? And have you gone there a lot? And is it awesome?
It's awesome. It's beautiful, first of all, because it's right on the water. They have great restaurants, and then, of course, there's like all the witchy stuff. So, yes, very, very cool.
Have you run across anything widow related tied to witches in Salem? Because didn't people back in the olden days think that widows were also witches? Do you know anything about that? I'm putting you on the spot. Sorry about that.
I have no idea. I apologize. I don't know about that.
We did not prep you for that.
To answer that question,
I can look it up because I swear I read about that.
I don't know about that, but I will say that I do retreats, and I just did a retreat. And one of the women that ran a couple sessions, so I just hired her to do another retreat, she calls herself, she's like, I'm a little witchy. I'm a little crazy and I'm a little witchy. And she does all kinds of like, again, tarot reading, astrology, like mediumship, all that kind of stuff. So she has like this kind of connection to, even though she's not a widow, but she's super cool.
Nice.
Random promotion for Colleen Murray.
Hi, Colleen.
Yeah, exactly.
Jennifer, tell us about your like non-widow life. We're going to get into the widow life. So like, tell us about you. I mean, maybe it's hard to separate out those two things, but like, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I was born in South Florida.
Oh,
Grew up my whole life in South Florida. I went to college in Florida. I am an only child to two really wonderful parents. I was a beach bum. I grew up for the first 4 years of my life. I think I was naked on a beach, wandering around the shores. And my best friend and my mom and her best friend, I think, would just like take us in one of those old vans, like the really boxy ones. And they would take us down to the beach and be like, okay, goodbye. So some people talk about playing like sports in the streets of their like neighborhoods. Like that was kind of my neighborhood, which was pretty cool. And I still consider myself an ocean soul. And it's one of my favorite places in the world is just to be on the water.
You're by the cold ocean now.
I am, but I am going to be in Cape Cod all summer, so it'll be warm and beachy and beautiful. I was a perfectionist growing up. I put a lot of pressure on myself, and that's important. I'll get there why that's important. I did really well in school. I actually graduated a year early from high school, which is kind of weird because people like live for their senior years of high school, and I was like, I'm out.
peace out.
Yeah, I had enough of it. I went to college at University of Florida. So I partied my ass off. I did well in school. I actually I applied and got accepted to grad school at NYU. I moved from Florida to New York City, and I realized very quickly that partying with my friends was way more important than going to school. And so I lasted about maybe 2 months in grad school, and I was like, once again, peace out. And so I did some couch surfing in New York. I found a career in public relations because I met a woman at a bar and I'm a super extrovert. And I started talking to her and she was like, "Hey, do you have a job?" "No, I don't have a job." I started working in PR. And then on 9/11, like the 9/11, 2001, I met my first husband. And we ended up at a mutual friend's house. And what was everybody doing on 9/11? They were all going to the bars in a very somber way, obviously. And so we could watch the news. And there was just, they had TVs all around these sports bars. And it was just a way to be with other people going through the same tragedy. So that was kind of a crazy story. He was from Massachusetts, which is how I ended up here. We stayed in New York for a couple of years. It was really fun. We came back to Massachusetts. And we had sworn when we met that we would never get married and we would never have children. That was like we told our parents, they were horrified. That was like our thing.
Why?
His parents were divorced and he was kind of like disillusioned with the idea of marriage. I was never really like a kid person. And so that wasn't like, I didn't grow up being like, oh my God, I'm going to be a mom someday. It just wasn't a thing for me. I think I was also really self-centered and liked my life and liked my freedom. And so that was our pact. Fast forward 4 years later, we were married and trying to have a kid.
I feel like when your relationship starts in such an auspicious way, like, hello, it's 9/11. Let's start a relationship out of this trauma and tragedy. Okay. I mean, I don't know what you expected, but here we are.
Here we're engaged, and me being a publicist saw an inquiry from the New York Post asking for people who had met on 9/11 and whose relationships had lasted.
Okay.
Of course, I wrote our story, and before we knew it, we were coming off the train coming from Boston to New York, and I looked around, and there were like hundreds of thousands of New York Posts with our picture on the cover.
Ooh.
He was like, "What did you do?"
You didn't tell him.
Anyway, but that was just like a fun fact of my first marriage. We did end up having a child who's now 16 and a half and currently with her tutor on chemistry right now downstairs. She's my world. But we did get divorced. My daughter was 2. It was one of those marriages. It checked all the boxes. He was great on paper. Sorry. Love you, Jason. But it just wasn't meant to be. And we are very good friends today and co-parent very well. And I feel very lucky about that.
Okay, so he is not dead.
No.
There's another one.
Congrats to Jason alive.
Yes.
Then.
He is alive. He's remarried. He has 2 kids. Yeah. He is not dead. He is still here. We got divorced and I went on every date you could possibly imagine. I dated anyone with a pulse, pretty much, because I didn't know what to do with myself when I didn't have my daughter. And I hated being alone. I never lived alone. That was my, like I said, extra extrovert, love meeting people. It was like, hey, even if I don't like this person, it's a new person to me. And so, I had dated pretty quickly for about a year. I ran into someone at our community pool and she came up to me and she said, "Hey, I know this couple. They're getting divorced. The guy's really awesome. When the news is public," is how she said it, about the divorce, "I'm going to set you up with this guy because he's so great and you guys should know each other."
Holy cow. I mean, talk about not the marriage isn't even cold and dead in the ground yet.
No, she was already like on it. I'll pause there because that was kind of my pre Jack life, I will call it. Jack is my husband who is dead. But yeah, grew up in Florida, only child, married, divorced, dating everyone. Got this kind of weird messaging from a friend, and that began Jack and my story.
What did you think about that? Somebody offering you a not yet divorced man. Were you okay with that?
Totally.
Her Her standards were not.
I was happy to have somebody set me up with somebody versus having to deal with the dating apps and not knowing what you're gonna get. And so I was like, and I trusted this person, and it was kind of like, you know, hey, if she thinks he's great and she knows me, and we'll see what happens. But it was very like nonchalant.
And then you mentioned there were dating apps around. What year was this?
So this was 2012. It was not like it is today. And Match was really like the king of the world. Like that was the main. There was like, okay, Cupid and maybe some other.
eHarmony, I feel like, has been around forever.
Yes, yes.
Okay, well, it apparently worked out and you met him and you liked
Yeah.
him and you married him.
So basically, what happened was that about a month or so after my friend had made this comment to me, a guy emailed me on Match, and I looked it over. He lived in my town. He went to Georgetown. He had two kids. Like again, checking boxes. But considering I had gone out with so many people that time, I have no idea why he was the one that I decided not to respond to. About a week later, messaged me again. And I was sharing an office with somebody at the time. And I was like, hey, come on over here, check out this guy. And she's like, what's wrong with you? Like, you should write back. And so I wrote back. We started texting and then talking, and then ended up going on our first date. And it was then that we realized that he was the guy that the friend had been talking about
Oh.
a couple months back.
So between two recommendations, yeah, Match.com and friend recommendation.
Yes, completely unrelated, unbeknownst to either one of us, that there was a connection there, but that was what led to Jack and my first date.
Jack and Jen. Oh,
Jack and Jen.
yes, love it.
I also love to tell the story on our first date. So our first date was at the Red Sox, was to the Red Sox, and my dad was also going to the game. Now, Fenway Park is huge. Fenway Park's huge. My dad's like a let's grab a hot dog before the game kind of guy. And Jack, because it was our first date, had taken me to a pretty nice restaurant before the game that was right by the park. And we're sitting at the bar. We learned really quickly we both like to eat really weird things. And we were ordering pig's tails and bone marrow and like bizarro things. But we're like, hey, we like to, whatever, we're adventurous, which was very much part of our relationship. And we're sitting there eating, we're talking, first date, nerves, getting to know each other. And I hear this big, bold laugh in the background. That was undeniably my father. And so I turn around and there he is with his friend sitting at a table. And I'm like, oh God, what do I do? Do I say hi? Do I ignore him? Long story short, I did go over. I said hi. I said I'm with my date at the bar. He said, I'll just leave you be. His friend was like, oh no, you're going to meet him.
Oh, I was gonna say, did you say, Dad, play it cool, be cool, man, be cool, be cool, be cool.
My dad knew. He was like, I'm just gonna like lay low. And his friend was like, oh no, you're not. He came over, he shook Jack's hand, and the kind of story then became that he met my dad on our first date.
Poor Jack.
So that part was over. That, we cut right to the chase there. That really began our love story. It was incredibly fast. It was, there were so many unusual connections. Our moms both grew up in the same town in Buffalo, New York. His dad had a condo that was like 5 buildings down from a condo that I grew up going to, like all these crazy things. And since this is a podcast about death, I will add in a second really quick funny story was that on the way to our date, we're in his car. He had a big Suburban, and I heard this like rolling in the back seat. And I was like, what's in the back seat? And Jack goes, my dad. And I was like, what do you mean your dad? And he's like, well, my dad died about 8 years ago. And I've had his urn with his ashes in my car pretty much ever since.
Yes.
I mean, you'd think that would be a red flag, but I
He
kind of
just
went with it.
he was keeping his dad fresh, like by the tumble process, right? He didn't want the
Yes.
cremains to become compacted, so he was just
Yes.
tumbling them to keep them fluffy.
Yeah.
Yes.
My friend told
Fluffy.
me last week that her aunt Her ashes were in her dad's truck, and her dad has since died. They just sold the truck, and she's like, "What do you think I should? Do you think I should tell them that my aunt's in there?" Still, no.
I love that. I love that.
They left her? They didn't get her
I
out?
think they actually did get her
Oh,
out.
okay.
I think that Jack was just death literate. I support this.
There's a beautiful thing that happens regarding the ashes that comes later in our story. So just planting a seed there.
You have a lot of synchronicity already, and he's still alive in our story. So I'm really curious.
Also on our first date, apparently in a stupor of sorts, I had a few drinks, told him that I really wanted to date somebody who took me on a trip that was international. Now, I don't really remember saying this, but he did. And so about 6 weeks after he took me on a trip and we went to Bermuda, which is actually pretty easy to get to from Boston. On that trip, I told him that I loved him and he did not say it back.
Oh boy.
But he did have a really good reason. He said, I can't tell you that I love you until you meet my kids and until you love my kids.
Hmm.
And so that was very honest and sweet and authentic. And I understood that.
I have a question.
Yeah, go.
I say I love you to everybody. Like I
Not to
think it's
me.
Mel, I love you.
Thanks. That's weird.
I love you, Mel.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the big deal is about saying I love you. Like, every time my kids' friends are over, whenever they leave, I say, like, I love you to my kids. And then I'm like, I love you to the friends. Like, I just say I love you all the time. And I just don't think it's that big of a deal. So I might get myself in trouble one day because I'll be on like a first date or something. I'll be like, I love you. And they'll be like, and run away. I don't know.
Yeah.
TBD.
Yeah, I think it depends on the situation. I have a friend that says, I love everybody and there's nothing you can do about it. It's so funny. But anyway, when you're on an island and on this kind of romantic vacation, when someone says I love you, it's like a different context. So it was kind
Okay.
of like
Okay.
big deal. And I did. I loved him. It was truly, I sound so cliche and cheesy, but it was love at first sight. So that was the beginning of our relationship. We loved to travel. We were both divorced. He was divorced, had two kids. I was divorced, had one kid. I will tell you, not that I'm a proponent of divorce by any stretch of the imagination, but it did benefit us because we only had our kids every other weekend. And so we had every other weekend just to ourselves. And, a lot of weekdays and stuff too, because we both had 50-50 custody situations going on. And so we got to spend a lot of time together without our kids, with their kids. And about a year into our relationship, we were in New Hampshire and we're sitting in a bar. He had told me he loved me at this point, so that was good. We had just bought a house together. And I looked at him and I said, we should really get married. And he was like, yeah, sounds like a good idea.
Casual proposal.
No big deal.
Casual. I was like, we're living together with all our kids. Like, maybe it would be a good idea to get married. And so that was in August. And we got married in December. It was like this huge, like, kind of crazy thing. We got married at a hotel in Massachusetts called the Liberty Hotel. It's an old jail. And they turned it into a really super cool hotel. The bar that we had it in was called Alibi, and there were these giant glitter handcuffs on the wall behind us. And so here we are saying our vows, and there's these giant glitter handcuffs, like as part of the art. And everybody was like, is this like a little weird?
What kind of a wedding is this?
Totally. But that was just like, that was us. It was kind of a go with the flow. Like we forgot the rings. My best friend forgot to bring the rings. And
Oh
so my
no.
stepdaughter, who was about 7 at the time, said the Pledge of Allegiance while we waited for her to go upstairs and get the rings. Again, that was just us. We were just like a total go with the flow, laugh at everything. And
You guys sound so fun.
we were really fun. I will say that. We were really fun. And the traveling piece is a big part of this next part of my journey. We were gifted a trip to Greece. I being like type A super planner, like planned for the entire year leading up to it. In fact, the day before we left, I handed him a binder.
Wow.
that had all of our plans and all of our reservations and everything you could possibly imagine. He was like, "Oh God, you're so crazy." We went off to Greece and we landed in Athens, spent 2 days there, took the ferry over to Mykonos, spent 2 days there, went out to the coolest restaurant called Scorpio Bar. There was like a DJ on the beach, came back to the hotel, sat at the bar for a little bit, went to sleep. At about 4 in the morning, he woke me up and he said, I think I'm having a heart attack.
Oh no.
How old was he right at this time?
He was 49, young, healthy. I will actually pause because there is an important part of the story before this is that I also am a recovering alcoholic and I was sober at the time and I had been for a couple of years. He had had a couple of drinks were completely unrelated to his death. He said, I think I'm having a heart attack. I ran downstairs to the front desk and I said, we need to call 911. And the guy looked at me and he said, there is no 911. You are on an island in the Mediterranean. It was just before season, so it was off season. And he's like, we just don't have that here. So he ran upstairs with me. Jack was still alive at the moment, but in significant pain. We started doing CPR. Neither one of us really knew what we were doing, but we were doing the best we could. In the meantime, he was frantically calling anybody that he knew that could get any sort of, medical professional to the hotel room. And while this poor manager of this beautiful boutique hotel in Mykonos and I were doing CPR, he died.
What?
Ah! I no.
Yeah.
No.
Unsubscribe from the story as reality.
That's awful.
Yeah. So, I watched him die, which I don't recommend to anyone. Ironically, about like a minute or two after he had died, the medics did arrive.
Oh,
Great.
They did, they did what they could. They did whatever they knew how to do to resuscitate him, to revive him.
is there no hospital on Mykonos?
No, people are super healthy there. They're
Probably olive
fine.
oil.
No one dies there.
They eat the Mediterranean diet.
Yeah, but still people like cut their fingers. No?
Yes, yes. There
Okay.
was a hospital, but to get him, there was no ambulance. And to get this man who was having a heart attack into a car to get to the hospital, and it happened really, really quick.
Hmm.
I guess he had told me he had been having chest pains for about an hour before he woke me up. Between the time he woke me up and the time he died, it might have been 20 minutes. So it was very, very quick.
Ugh, I don't like this story.
Yeah, the whole story sucks. So the first place this gets even crazier,
No.
because why shouldn't it? The first place I had to go was to the police station because a man had died in my hotel room.
Crime scene.
Crime scene. And so I understand it now. At the time, I was like, WTF, like, why am I going to that? And most of the police officers didn't speak a whole lot of English. And so thankfully, this owner of this boutique hotel, who had also watched my husband die, came with me.
He was now your attorney too.
He was my translator.
He's all the things.
They just needed to kind of go through protocol. And, I knew obviously had nothing to do with me. And I think they knew that too. They just kind of had to go through motions. And while I was waiting there in and out, and I was there for about 2 hours, and I was slowly calling his sisters, his mom.
Hmm.
We were making a plan on how to tell our children, and I am alone in a foreign country. I was lucky in a sense that I was able to come home very quick. I didn't know if I was going to have to stay there. Like, I didn't know anything. And I had to work through the US Embassy. They were amazing. They had to coordinate with a local funeral home who did all of the autopsy work and coordinated all of that kind of stuff. He had to be where he had died. I was able to come home pretty quickly within like 48 hours. My dad and his sister had offered to fly out there to fly back with me. And I thought that was ridiculous that they were going to fly, 14 hours there, 14 hours back. I don't even remember how far it is to Greece. Anyway, so I flew back alone. Bad idea. Just that was, perhaps, out of after his death, like probably the worst day of my life. And I came home and, I think any widow listening to this knows like it's a it's a circus. Like there's just people everywhere and we had come up with this elaborate plan on how to tell his kids. I was still in Greece. I called, it was like divide and conquer. Like two of my sister-in-laws went to one school, sister, like it was like this, it was
It
chaos.
was like a production.
It was a production. It really was.
What happened to his body? Did it come back? Did they cremate him in Greece? Did they cremate him at all anytime? Where is he?
Is he in the back of a truck somewhere?
Is he rolling around?
No. So I had the option to fly his body back for a burial of that sort or to have him cremated. And I chose to have him cremated, which is very much against his very, very, very Catholic mom's wishes. It was a collaborative decision to have him cremated. And they sent, his remains directly to the funeral home here in my hometown. We did a wake. There were 950 people that came to the wake. I love to share that number because it just speaks volumes of who he was. It was, people he had worked with. It was his he had this amazing group of guys that he was friends with from college. And I often joked with him that I married him for his friends because I really liked them. Family, I had my AA community.
Were you at the time in like daily meetings? How often did you connect with them anyway?
Yes, they're my world. So when I came back from Greece and I had to go through customs, that was actually the worst part. And it was like really crowded and really sweaty. And I just laid down on the floor and started crying. And the customs officer came over and like basically like carried me to the front. I was like, my husband just died. I'm by myself. Like, I can't do this.
Oh my
To this
gosh.
day, I like hyperventilate when I go through customs. But I got in a car and I went right to a meeting. That was the first place I went. When I tell my sobriety and recovery story, I often, tell people that, bad stuff happens and you don't have to drink. And I stayed sober through that.
What was that experience like? Because alcohol is a hard thing. Hey guys, just checking in and want to say if you are enjoying this podcast,
And you want to see it keep going, maybe it's helped you through your widowhood journey and you think that it might help others on their widowhood journey, you can support that cause by joining our Patreon.
some of the things that you get as a Patreon beneficiary are ad-free episodes, so you don't have to hear ads like this.
You also get exclusive content, and at a certain level, you might also get an exclusive t-shirt. You can only get that place.
That is true. It's pretty cool. There are 4 different tiers available, so check it out. It's patreon.com/WWDN.
And as an extra bonus, very often you get your names read by one of my kids, and they will do a terrible job with the pronunciation. And that's like a bonus, I think.
I think it's kind of the best. I would much rather hear somebody butcher my name than say it correctly.
A child butcher it than an adult do it correctly. Yep. So go to patreon.com/WWDN to keep our podcast going and support the widowed cause.
Yes! Thanks, guys! Back to our regularly scheduled program.
It is a hard thing, and it's a natural thing to want to go to when you don't want to deal with whatever is going on in your life. But I did. While I was in Greece over that night, which sidebar, one of his friends hooked me up with one of his cousins who lived in Greece, and I ended up staying on his houseboat that night. Weird. Anyway, but I did. I went to online meetings. I called my recovery community, and for those 24 hours I was in Greece, I was in constant contact with my recovery community. They carried me through the hardest time of my life.
I know the AA community is so supportive and strong, and so you already know the benefits of community going through something really, really difficult and something lifelong. How has that translated into widowhood?
I feel incredibly lucky that I had that community. What I couldn't find though was widow community. And I saw it after it. And, I found some stuff, but nothing was like really like my vibe, I guess. And, there were things I liked, things I didn't, but I really just wanted like to talk to people who understood what I was going through and to be able to be honest and frank and not have to like sugarcoat things. And so about 6 months after Jack died, I went on a wellness retreat, and it was in Costa Rica. It was a yoga retreat. I arrived, and these young girls, much younger than me, their definition of life transition very different than mine, all ran up to me and they were like, "So how much do you practice?" And I was like, "Practice what?"
Crying?
They're like, they're like, "Yoga. You're on a yoga retreat." And I was like, "Oh, right. Yeah, no, I don't really practice yoga. I just needed to get away from like my life."
Zero. I practice zero.
I practice zero. I just needed a break from life. And that was really why I went. Like, when you become a widow, as many of your listeners I'm sure can attest to, it's bananas. It's chaotic. It's the paperwork and the emotions and the families and the people who don't know what to say and say stupid things. And I was like, I just needed to get out of here. Like I needed to like refill my cup because I wasn't doing anyone any good at that point. The actual retreat part of it was super healing, but the connection was lacking. And it was on my way home that I was like, well, why don't I do a retreat for widows? And that's kind of where the business I now run began. And because I am type A, binder, I like put together a business plan and filed for an LLC. And within like 2 months, I had my first retreat planned, which was last summer. And I had all these other ideas. Everybody kept saying, like, slow down, Jen, slow down. But I was running support groups and I built an online community, like all the things. Because like you said, Mel, like I understood how important it is to be within a community who gets it, as I like to say. And I wanted it for myself, but I wanted it for other people too.
What year did Jack die?
So it'll actually be 2 years in 10 days from now.
That's so recent. And you've already done all this stuff too. You are type A. I'm impressed.
You are
Yes,
type A.
yes. It was May 21st, 2024.
And you've had how many retreats already?
I have had three, and I have my fourth one coming up in about a month or so.
Good grief. Literally.
And
Good grief is right.
literally, it was a coping mechanism for me. I had to just keep busy and keep moving forward. And it's not necessarily the healthiest thing. And in fact, about 3 months ago, I kind of crashed, and I've been participating in a pretty intensive mental health program because I didn't really feel the grief. I didn't cry for like a year. I cried once in a blue moon, but I wasn't one of those like cry at the drop of the, I'm not a really big crier anyway, but it wasn't like you would think your husband dies. Like you would just be, bawling in your bed, and a lot of people are, and no judgment ever. But it was, for me, it was like I had to just keep my life going and full. And I had three kids, and
You've done wellness retreats, like you run them. You've been to yoga retreats, so you're familiar with everybody needs to stop and like feel the feelings. But do you think even if you could go back in time, could you have even stopped yourself to feel things?
probably not. No.
Because, we all look back with hindsight. Yeah. And it's like, that's what I wonder too. Because we try and go, go, go. And we see this with so many of our widow friends that we interview. It's like, you have the energy, you have to use it if you have it, And it's like, yeah, I remember kind of being in like a frenzy I was so good at getting stuff together if it had to do with Scott or like a memorial or something. How would you stop if you don't feel like stopping?
I mean, to me, it goes to show that everybody handles things differently. And I never have any judgment for how people do that. There are people who can't get out of bed, can't leave their house. There's people who can't go back to their house. I am in the house that we owned and lived in. I'm sitting in the bed that we slept in. Everybody has their journey. And, I respect that. This was
I
mine.
mean, you got a lot done.
Got a lot done. I also, to your point of like helping you because you have big ideas, I also had big ideas, and like some of those ideas have been total busts. In fact, the retreats are the most magical part of what I do, and it's what I will continue to do, even, if regardless what happens with all the other ideas.
Tell us about them. Like, how does it work? Give us a picture.
So they've all been a little bit different. I learn a lot from each one. The first one I actually had Here's another funny thing. I'm sure you guys hear, widow influencers.
Mm, yeah.
So I found some people who were either authors or had a big following, and I thought that like they would help me bring the people to the retreat. I had worked in marketing my whole career, I kind of had a little bit of that world. I also, the last 5 years before Jack died, I worked in nonprofit. So that was my first one. And it was more of like sessions where people were sharing their stories of loss and people were relating, and then we had some like other activities and so forth. My second one, I turned into what I now do all the time, which is a widow wellness retreat. And I brought in different practitioners who do everything from Reiki to grounding to expressive dance to
Witchery, I
astrology
hear.
and witchery.
Yes.
Exactly. And by the way, like at that prior to all of this, like I thought all of that was a little like woo woo. Like I didn't really like, I was kind of like, that's like not really my thing. I fully buy in now, and it has been transformational in my growth. And I've seen groups of women together on a retreat participate in sessions that are much more in the holistic wellness space and really find transformation. So, and listen, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a coach. I have no certifications in grief whatsoever, except
And
that
no
I'm a widow.
qualifications.
No qualifications, except that I've been through it and I am a connector and a facilitator. And that's really what I got.
Where have people been from that come to these retreats? Do they come from all over or have you started locally?
So the three that I've had and the fourth one that I'm having in July, they're all in the state of Massachusetts. So my daughter, when I first told her that this is what I was going to do, we made a little bit of a pact because she had some pretty significant PTSD because I was overseas when Jack died. And so she was like, I don't want you like going around the world hosting these retreats. And so I promised her I would do them all in Massachusetts. I do hope to do one internationally at some point, and we've worked through that. But so they've all been in Massachusetts, but I can tell you that my last one, we had someone from Seattle, I think was the furthest, Atlanta, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Virginia. So out of 15 women, over half of them came from a different state than Massachusetts.
Is it on Cape Cod? Is that where you do it?
So this last one, so the first one was in the Berkshires in Western Mass. The second one was in New Hampshire. It was in the fall. It was beautiful. This last one was in Cape Cod, and the next one will be in Cape Cod as well.
Can you do one in Salem? Can it be witch themed?
So crazy is that this last one was supposed to be in the town right next to Salem, and we almost moved it to Salem. But the hotel, like you have to find the right space is key to this, and it didn't have the right space. So yeah, totally. Let's do it.
Mel's coming. If you do it in Salem, sign her up. What is included when they come on a retreat? Like, is it they
Everything.
have to get their own hotel? Like everything, food, all of it.
Everything. They step into wherever the place is and they don't have anything to worry about. They do nothing. I have an agenda. They can show up for everything. They don't have to. I've learned to build in a lot of free time because widows need naps.
Yes, many naps.
What about like they have to get themselves there, I'm guessing. So like
Yes,
airfare
they
or
do.
whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have to get themselves there. But once they're there, everything is taken care of.
Do you do any like scholarship programs or like coupons?
I do. I typically will do an early bird special. If you sign up by a certain date, get, a certain amount off. I will say this. I feel very lucky that I have been able to invest money into this business. I have not made a penny back. And so I do it because I love it. Obviously there's a charge. And at this point, my dream is to break even. This next retreat is a little bit pricier than other ones because I also have to eat. Um, and I've kind of come to the end of my rope as far as like what I can invest in this, and I share this openly, like to this date, like I just want people to be there.
Have you ever taken Dr. Taylor Hartman's personality test? It's the colors. There's
Oh,
red.
Yes, I
Are
have. When
you
I worked at,
a yellow? You have to be a yellow, maybe yellow blue.
yellow blue.
Yellow
Because you
blue,
care about
yellow
people
blue.
and you like to have the fun and want everyone to
Yeah,
be happy.
yeah. People pleaser alert. Yeah.
How are you doing with boundaries since you love people?
I love quotes too. And so I have like a whole folder in my phone of quotes. And I have one that says, for those of you who knew me when I lacked boundaries, I burn bridges now. I'm good. I'm not so good in the widow community. But in my personal life, I've gotten so much better. You have to. I think that's one thing that widowhood has forced me to do is set boundaries because people have no boundaries when you're a widow.
Jen, back to your retreats. July is kind of soon. Are there openings for that one or is it full?
There are limited spots available still. I hope people will still come join. I like to tweak them each time. I like to try new things. This one's actually in a home that I rented. There are only 8 beds to sleep in, so therefore I mean, unless you want to come with your friend and sleep with them, that's fine with me. As long as it's a woman, they're women only. We're doing a spa day. We're taking a day trip to Nantucket. It's a little bit elevated, more elevated. The witchy woman that I spoke to before, Colleen, she's actually hosting all of the sessions because I just adore her, and people just really connected with her at my last retreat. Everyone was like, we all have to see Colleen again.
What would you say to somebody who might be thinking about coming to one of your retreats, this retreat, but is a little worried that they don't know anybody?
No one knows anybody when they walk in the door. Here's what usually happens. Everybody comes in and you have that weird like looking around like, I don't know you, who are you? It's a little awkward, you're a little bit nervous. We do an opening kind of get to know you session, and by the time we sit down for lunch, which is an hour into the retreat, you're friends for life. It's just how it goes. I don't know who, what, where, and why. It just happens.
I'm telling you, there's something about being a widow where you can skip like a lot of steps in the do I trust you to open up to. Like you can just skip steps A through L and you're right on because you're like, I know you've been through this. I know that, your life has also been upheaved.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I
It
find
is.
that you can make connections quicker because you can just skip a lot of the like
Yeah.
minutia of life. I mean, there are definitely widows who I've met who I'm like, I wouldn't go on vacation with you, but I do think that it's easier to jump into connection with people who are also widows.
And yeah, of course, there's certain people who open up slower than others. There are some who will just like, bleh, like tell their whole story in like 3.5 minutes. Me. The first support group I did, there were 8 of us and we all came in, and my like plan for the first group was that we'd all go around and like share our story, and I shared mine, and then I looked around and everybody was like, and I was like, oh,
Ooh.
Uh,
okay, plan B.
I was at the skate park last week, which is a thing since widowhood, whatever, skateboarding. And I met this girl there. She was so good at skating. Just her and her friend, and they looked about my age. And I was there with my other friend that knows that I'm a widow. And she also knows that I'm always worried about oversharing, but also at the same time, I don't know how to share my story unless just the fact, like I've bullet pointed it out. And
Mhm.
it's probably like yours. And it's like the bullet points are so big and everyone's always just like mouth wide open. Because I can't remember how we got on this topic, but they asked me some stuff and I was like, are you sure you want to know? It's a lot and I don't want to trauma dump. And they're like, no, we want to know. And I still tell it and they're like, what? Anyway, guess what's crazy though? It turns out that the person that was so good that was skating is best friends with someone that we've interviewed before.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's so crazy because it's like this world is so small, but also sharing your story, I don't know. I think it's good for everybody, even if some people might be uncomfortable with it, because then there's more awareness. But it's really crazy all the connections that widowhood can bring.
When I share my story in a in-person forum, I get to the like, and then he had a heart attack and died part, and usually everybody's like, and I always say, don't do that. Stop, because that's, not what this is about. It's not about like I'm not telling this so you guys can all and then feel sorry for me. Like, I'm sharing this because I know that there are people that, even if you're not a widow, can relate to some of the stuff I'm talking to
Yeah.
about.
I'll say, I'm going to tell you these things and I'm okay, sort of.
That's what I do too.
Don't worry. Just don't
Yeah.
worry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Preface it
Yeah.
with like, I'm going to tell you something sad, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Right.
But it's funny because
Right.
they don't ever think it's as bad as like your husband dying. They're like, oh, I didn't know it was that.
Yeah. Yeah. I just went to a conference this week and it's like these people had zero, like it's one of the few times where I have zero connection to everybody. And I sat there thinking like, at what point in time is it going to come up? Like, when is it going to? And it did, for sure. It did. And I said that, Mel, I was like, okay, everybody, it's fine. But yes, my husband died and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm like, yep, you're okay. You're okay. Breathe through it. Okay, let's move
I'm
on.
okay, so you're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I want to come to a retreat and have a witchy woman put a stone over my.
Were you going to say bosom?
No, I was gonna say body, but I'll
Might as well do the
guys.
bosom. Come on.
This is so unrelated, but one of the best stories of my entire life. I had the weirdest substitute in junior high, and she once told us a story about incubating a chicken's egg in her cleavage.
What?
She like told this whole story about it, and I was just like,
That's so weird. That is
what?
so
And I
weird.
got home and I was like, Mom, we had this substitute, and she told us that she would keep a chicken's egg in her boobs to keep it warm. And my mom was like, oh, okay. Anyway, so that was one of my formative memories that has really directed how I've lived my life.
Was that in junior high?
Yeah. Oh, old CJH
Good old,
Mel.
yeah. We went to the same schools, Jen, if you didn't know
Oh my
that.
gosh.
You know what?
Mhm.
Also random. I guess I had an ancestor that would breed silkworms, and she sewed them into her dress to keep them warm because it was pioneer
I
times.
feel like, yeah, I feel like, isn't that like the Whitaker Museum, Mel? If you go
Yeah.
to the Whitaker Museum, I'm pretty sure they have stories about that.
Yeah.
That's like the Salem
I'm
witch.
sorry, Mel, but Anita wins in the bosom.
I didn't know
I mean,
that person.
sewing worms into your dress is pretty gross, but
It's pretty gross.
that
Yeah.
maybe was on brand for then.
Jen, what else? Is there anything else that we need to cover that's like important?
What's it called, and where can people find it? This retreat, your site.
My website, itslifey.com, and it's lifey comes from the phrase life gets lifey because it does. Life gets lifey. I mean, I always say, a divorced, sober alcoholic whose husband died. Like, life is lifey. And so it's lifey.com, and there is a section called retreats. It'll say upcoming retreat, and all the information is there. Um, you can also at It's Lifey Co is my Instagram handle. Lots of information there too. I have a Facebook page, all the usual stuff.
In an effort to pitch Salem again, since we started the interview, I did look up widows and the Salem witch trials. And guess what? Every time I learn things about widows and being marginalized, I get so mad. But because widows often had property and no male protector, they were targeted as, quote, witches. So that it says widows who owned property or who were independent from male control were often seen as threats to established social norms, and many were perceived as sharp-tongued, irritable, or beggars, making them easier targets for neighbors to say that they were witches or whatever. And also, widows in the 1692 Salem witch trials were disproportionately targeted due to their vulnerability as women without male protection, often controlling property or living in poverty.
Screw that.
Reclaim widows in Salem and do something there, and we will come.
Oh my God, we're gonna have a
Witches.
protest.
Let's cast some spells,
Can you imagine? We're all gonna
put eggs in our cleavage.
What are eggs in the cleavage and silkworms?
Yes.
It's so
I have, okay. The silkworms thing was a thing though, because like the women
Yeah.
would take those and that was their way of making money,
Sure,
like was
yeah.
to be able
True.
to produce silk.
So they had to stay warm.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it was the 1800s. But guess what? I am related to somebody who was notable in the Salem witch trials. So I'm invested in this.
You're
Jen.
invested.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, Salem is beautiful. I would totally have a retreat there. It's not
It's not out of the
it's not
question.
out of the question at all. I also want to offer anyone that is listening and tells me that they heard about the retreat on your podcast, then I'm going to offer $350 off of this July retreat.
You've
So,
heard it here.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
so it was, I don't have anything to give away per se. I don't have a book. I don't have anything like that. But I have a retreat. Yes.
You heard it here, folks. Here we are. Make sure that you sign up. Sign up, one and all.
So I do want to offer that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's what I hope for. I mean, between all of us and I guess everybody that's listening.
I think when Jen came on the podcast, she did not expect to talk about Salem or witches quite so much, but we like to keep it fresh. We like to surprise our guests. We like them not to know what we're going to do next. But the next thing we got to ask is expected.
What's your favorite cheese, Jen?
Oh, that is unexpected. And I love cheese so much that it's hard to answer. I think I have to go with brie.
Okay.
Like baked brie, all gooey with like some sort of like fruit something compote thing is like kind of dreamy.
Yes.
So I was on a date, and we went to a Christmas fest, and there was a cheesemonger there, and like I said, I love cheese, and so we bought 2 blocks of cheese, and we're walking, and my date says, "Oh, I can hold the cheese. I can put it in my back pocket." And I'm thinking, like, in your back pocket? That's weird. And so he was a hunter, and he mainly hunted pheasants, and he's wearing this like big hunter coat. And it turns out there's a pocket in the back of it that is usually used to carry the dead birds in hunting. Like they just kind of shove them back there.
Oh.
And so he put the cheese
No.
in the back pocket of his
The
coat.
dead pheasant pocket? No.
The dead pheasant pocket. But the best part is that afterwards, I don't know, I guess I told a few friends about this, and he was, and now will always be referred to as Cheese Pocket.
Amazing.
Classic.
No.
Poor guy has no idea. No idea.
All right. Thank you, Jen. Just to remind you, the website, it's Lifey. It's Lifey, correct?
ITSLIFEY. It's Lifey.
Go check it out. We hope all of you have enjoyed listening to our episode today and have come away learning something new. If only that Mykonos does not have 911.
Oh,
That makes me not want to go to there. But hopefully everything's fine.
but if you
there.
go there, Anita, you're a medical professional. You can help people.
I can. Actually, I was thinking things. I was like, did you have him eat a 325 milligram aspirin? But I mean, wasn't
If
gonna
you
save him.
here's the message. If you go
Yeah.
there, don't die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Easy.
Good. Love
Hey,
that. Love that.
maybe
so
you'll
much.
do a retreat there. Just kidding.
Oh, yeah, that might be.
Too soon.
Yeah,
Too
That might not
soon.
happen. That might not happen. If
Don't
you
think
guys
so.
listening would like to keep the podcast going, will you check out our Patreon? It's patreon.com/WWDN.
If you'd like to buy us tacos, go to buymeacoffee.com/widow we do now.
And we so appreciate a nice rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And we also, our audio is on YouTube these days. So check us out there too. And until we get to talk to you again, I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
And I'm Jen.
We are just 2 young widows and 1 maybe witch widow. We're not quite sure still, but we're all just trying to figure out widow
We
to
now.
Mel. Can you please tell me how you feel about therapy?
I am so grateful for therapy. I do therapy every single week.
Do you think it's a great tool in the widow's toolbox?
I sure do. I think it's a great tool in anybody's toolbox. And I am so glad that I have stuck with it because as time goes on, there are more things that I am able to learn about myself. That goes for anything from healing from the death of my husband to childhood things to trying to get outside and be social or trying to address my own certain personality. So yeah, it's really been helpful for me.
We have so many people in the Widow Wives Club who have started using BetterHelp and have amazing reviews. It takes away so many of the barriers to getting great therapy.
I know one of the things that's hard for people, and we get this question a lot, it's I need a therapist that does XYZ. Who is a therapist that is going to be widow friendly? And I know that is so hard to find. When I did therapy that was not on this online platform, it was hard. And it's kind of trial and error, kind of like a new medication, honestly, like a new antidepressant. And the way that BetterHelp is set up is it's easy to find somebody that has your specific needs as part of their expertise. And you know what? If you get into a couple of sessions with that person and it's not a good fit, it's so easy to change. You can ask some of our friends in the Widow Wives Club. They've changed therapists and gotten one that has been a better fit for them. Well, a lot of them are lucky with who they get first time. I am so grateful for mine. I love her so much, and it's literally changed my life for the better.
This is amazing. So if you guys are wanting to add therapy to your toolbox or need a change in who you're seeing right now, consider checking out BetterHelp. They're one of our sponsors. If you go to trybetterhelp.com/WWDN,
you get 10% off your first month of therapy if you sign up with BetterHelp. And let me tell you, the day that I was in the hospital with my dad when he was dying, I was able to instant message with my therapist, and she checked on me all throughout the week. And I was not available for video sessions for a lot of those times because there were things we were dealing with, like mortuary stuff, and I was still able to be in contact with her. So they're very, very responsive, caring. It's such a great platform, and I recommend it to anybody who is looking for therapy.
Once again, it's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
And that's for 10% off your first month of online therapy.
You don't even have to wear pants, Mel.
I know this.
First-hand experience.
You can even wear a onesie.
Or a twosie.
Ooh, scary. All right, bye!